know. You're gonna have to ask Aliyah that question. I honestly, you just do your work. You got to do your work early, and make it different. But Aliyah did say I have a special whistle, and she shot 13 today. Yeah, yeah. She said the last game I had a special whistle, which is cool.
What's crazy is Becky actually tried to spin this, saying the game was called differently than the rest of the series. Really? You don't say. Maybe that's because Indiana finally started pounding the paint instead of settling for jumpers. Or maybe because Aliyah Boston finally looked like the #1 pick she was drafted to be. Just a thought. And let's not pretend Vegas was playing clean basketball. Jackie Young had 5 fouls. Chelsea Gray had 5 fouls. Vegas was hacking left and right. And the refs just called it. They didn't swallow the whistle. They didn't rig anything. They just did their job. Meanwhile, Fever fans are absolutely loving this. For months, they've heard that Caitlin Clark is the only reason Indiana wins games. Well, guess what? Caitlin's been sidelined, and Aliyah Boston stepped right into that superstar role. She went toe-to-toe with A.A. Wilson and completely outplayed her. That's not refs. That's reality. Boston bullied her way to 24 points and 14 rebounds. That's dominance, not favoritism. Kelsey Mitchell dropped 25, hit clutch shots, and outshined Jackie Young. Again, not refs, just buckets. Odyssey Sims cooked off the bench, crossing people out of their sneakers. Still not refs, just basketball. The Fever had a better game plan, executed better, and frankly, they wanted it more. But no, according to AA and Becky, it's all a script written by corrupt officials. It's almost comical.
Look on your face while you're looking at that box score. I'm wondering what's really standing out to you there.
I was just looking at the fouls. Like Bliss had 5, Jackie had 5, Chelsea had 5, and that's very interesting to me because when I say we don't foul, yeah, we foul here and there, but that's very interesting.
Here's the thing. The Aces lose and suddenly the referees are crooks. But when Vegas wins because of questionable calls in other series, not a peep, silence. That's the real hypocrisy here. Vegas has been benefiting from whistles for years. Becky Hammond herself has even praised referees when calls went her way. But the minute the scales tip in Indiana's favor, it's a full-blown conspiracy. Let's just call it what it is. Deflection. The Aces don't want to admit they got outworked. They don't want to admit Aliyah Boston punked their front court. They don't want to admit Kelsey Mitchell cooked their guards. They don't want to admit their bench gave them almost nothing. So instead of taking accountability, they point at the refs and scream cheating. It's lazy. It's weak. And honestly, it's embarrassing for a franchise that loves to call itself the standard. But hey, this isn't new. Coaches blaming refs is older than basketball itself. It's the easy way out. If you say, we lost because they played better, then you actually have to change something. But if you say, we lost because the refs were crooked, then boom, no adjustments needed. Just run it back and hope the whistle flips next game. That's excuse making. Now, here's where it gets even funnier. AC's fans are actually buying into this. Twitter has been full of posts whining about how the league wants Caitlin Clark in the finals for ratings. As if referees are secretly on Adam Silver's payroll, taking orders to rig games for Indiana. Give me a break. If the WNBA was really rigging games, don't you think they prefer Vegas, the 2-time champs with A.J. Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young back in finals? That's a much safer bet for ratings in Indiana, who just climbed out of the basement last season. This whole conspiracy theory just makes no sense.
Anesthesia. It looks like they really were intentional about going to Aliyah in the second half. What was, I guess, difficult about containing her? I know you guys kind of touched on a few things, maybe with the foul calls. What made it successful for them to keep running hard tonight?
I don't know. You got that Aliyah that question. Honestly, you just do your work. You got to do your work early and make it different. But Aliyah did say I had a special whistle. She shot 13 today.
She said that to you.
Yeah, she said the last game I had a special whistle, which is cool. So we just got to play their better defense, make her look a little difficult, and kind of go from there.
And let's not forget this is Caitlin Clark's second year. She's not a rookie anymore. The idea that the league is forcing her success is tired. She's proven herself, and the Fever have proven themselves. Aliyah Boston just proved she's every bit the star Indiana drafted her to be. If the Aces can't handle that, well, that's their problem. Let's zoom in on that free throw stat one more time, because this is the hill Becky and they want to die on. Indiana 34, Vegas 11. Looks bad on paper, right? But dig deeper. Indiana attacked the rim relentlessly. Vegas settled for jumpers. That's the difference. That's not corruption. It's basketball 101. Aggression gets rewarded. Passive play doesn't. It's really that simple. And the funniest part, the Aces still had chances to win. Even with that free throw disparity, they were within striking distance late in the game. But they missed shots, turned the ball over, and folded down the stretch. That's on them, not the refs, not the league. Them. So yeah, Aisha Wilson and Becky Hammon went off on the refs in their post-game rants. But the truth is, the only people they exposed were themselves. They exposed their own insecurity. They exposed their own lack of accountability. And they exposed how scared they are of the Indiana Fever, because deep down they know this isn't the same old Fever. This team isn't backing down anymore.
Maybe a four.
What? Oh my God, that's interesting. That's what I was looking at. We'll do better. We gotta play better defense.
Uninteresting. You mean that shit?
Here's where we go even deeper. That meltdown from Vegas wasn't just a couple of salty quotes. It was a full-on attempt to rewrite what everyone actually saw. The box score doesn't lie. Aliyah Boston owned the paint. Kelsey Mitchell owned the perimeter. Odyssey Sims torched their bench. And the Fever, a team that was supposed to be rebuilding, suddenly looks one win away from a finals. But Vegas, they just want you to believe the refs cheated. Let's revisit A.A. Wilson's comments, because they're almost comedy at this point. She said something like, "We foul sometimes." Sure, but the number of fouls called was interesting. Interesting. That's her word for it. Translation: we fouled a ton, but I don't like how obvious the refs made it look. Imagine being a superstar who gets bailed out by refs year after year, only to act shocked when the whistle isn't gift wrapped for you. It's like a celebrity complaining their free VIP pass didn't work at the club one night. Sorry, AA, but regular rules apply sometime. And let's really break down what happened defensively. AA had absolutely no answer for Aliyah Boston. None. Boston went right at her, right through her, and right over her. That's why she got fouled so much. Not because of favoritism, but because AA couldn't keep her in front without slapping her arm or hip-hecking her in the lane. That's not cheating refs. That's called getting cooked. Then we've got Becky Hammon's press conference, a masterclass in deflection. She literally stared at reporters and said, "They shot 34 free throws. We shot 11. Next question. No mention of defensive adjustments. No mention of Boston's footwork. No mention of Kelsey Mitchell's shot making. Nope. Just a wrap. It's the easiest narrative in sports. When you lose, blame the people in stripes.
Coach, how much Liz foul trouble impacted you on the rotation and her impact on the defensive end?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts us. We need to be able to play Liz heavy minutes. She's been an impactful player in this series. I gotta go back and look at the tape, but it seemed like there was a lot of grabbing and holding down there. That got called one way. Anything else? I did appreciate it was a little tighter call, but tighter on both ends would have been nice.
But here's the problem. Everyone with eyes saw Vegas hacking away like they were chopping wood. The Aces weren't disciplined. They reached, they grabbed, they swiped down. Of course, the whistle blew. It's not rocket science. You foul, you get called. That's just basketball. And the fact that Becky is so determined to pretend otherwise makes her look less like a Hall of Fame level coach and more like a PR manager for the Las Vegas excuse machine. And let's not pretend Vegas hasn't been favored in the past. Fever fans haven't forgotten the whistle in Game 3 when Caitlin Clark started 1-for-1 and still couldn't get a single call despite being hacked on drives. That game should have gone Indiana's way, but the refs swallowed their whistles and Vegas stole one. Funny how Becky and AA had nothing to say about interesting officiating back then. It's only when the shoe is on the other foot that they suddenly find their voices. This is what makes the "they cheated" narrative so laughable, because if the league really wanted to rig things, they wouldn't pick Indiana. They'd stick with the proven ratings monster, the Aces. AA is a two-time MVP. Becky is one of the faces of coaching, and Vegas has already built itself up as the WNBA's glamour franchise. If you were going to fix a game for ratings, wouldn't you make sure AA and crew advanced? The logic just collapses on itself. Meanwhile, Indiana doesn't care about the whining. They're too busy celebrating. Aliyah Boston's stat line of 24 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. That wasn't handed to her by refs. That was sweat and muscle. Kelsey Mitchell dropping 25 wasn't a gift from a whistle. That was Odyssey Sims cooking defenders one-on-one. Wasn't some referee conspiracy. That was basketball. Here's the truth. Vegas doesn't want to admit Indiana beat them at their own game. The Fever were tougher. The Fever were hungrier. The Fever played like the team that wanted the finals more. And instead of tipping their hats, Vegas chose to cry foul. Literally. Now, let's zoom out and talk big picture. This isn't just about one game. This is about a shift in power. For years, the WNBA has been dominated by the Aces, the Liberty, the Mercury, the usual suspects. And Indiana was supposed to be rebuilding. A young team with promise, but no real chance of knocking off the Giants. But Caitlin Clark's arrival paired with Aliyah Boston's growth changed everything. And now, in year 2 of Clark's career, Indiana is suddenly on the brink of the finals. That's what really scares Vegas. Because, let's be real, this isn't about refs. This is about ego. The Aces are used to being the bully. They're used to walking into gyms and owning the spotlight. But now, they're watching the Fever steal the headline. Clark, even from the sidelines, is still the biggest name in the league. Boston is outshining Asia Wilson. Kelsey Mitchell is outdueling Jackie Young. The Fever are flipping the script, and the Aces don't like it one bit. And what happens when egos get bruised? Excuses. Whining conspiracies about corrupt officials. It's just easier than admitting you got outplayed. The fans aren't buying it, though. Social media blew up after the game. Fever fans clowned Asia for complaining about free throws when she's been gifted more whistles than anyone in the league. Neutral fans pointed out that Boston actually earned her calls by being aggressive, while Asia settled for jumpers. And even some Vegas fans admitted their team looked flat and deserved to loot. That's the thing about excuses. They sound good in the locker room, but they don't hold up under the bright lights of public opinion. Now, let's not completely let the referees off the hook. The WNBA's officiating has been trash all season long. Missed calls, inconsistent whistles, technicals for nothing. You name it, we've seen it. But in this case, the refs weren't the reason Vegas lost. They were bad both ways. As usual, the difference is Indiana didn't let it rattle them. They adjusted, stayed aggressive, and forced the issue. Vegas, on the other hand, folded and then cried foul. And here's a point nobody in Vegas wants to admit. Becky Hammon got outcoached. Stephanie White finally unleashed Boston in the post. She told her to stop floating around the perimeter, and the results were devastating. Vegas had no counter. Becky didn't adjust. She didn't double Boston and effectively didn't rotate fast enough, and just let her dominate one-on-one. That's not refs, that's coaching. But are we hearing Becky admit she got outcoached? Nope, just excuses. So let's recap. A.A. Wilson blames a special whistle. Becky Hammon points at free throw numbers like there's some conspiracy chart. Aces fans scream about corruption. And meanwhile, the scoreboard says Indiana Fever won. Las Vegas Aces 0 in the excuse wars. The Fever earned their win. Vegas lost because they got outplayed. Simple as that. And here's the kicker. All this whining sets up Game 5 perfectly, because now the pressure is on Vegas. If they lose again, the narrative isn't just refs cheated us. The narrative becomes Aha Wilson and Becky Hammon got outplayed and outcoached by a young Indiana team. That's the legacy risk here. And deep down they know it. That's why the excuses are flowing like water. At the end of the day, fans don't care about referee conspiracies. They care about results. And the result right now is clear. The Fever are one win away from the finals, while the Aces are stuck pointing fingers. So here we are, Vegas crying about refs, Indiana celebrating, and the WNBA caught in the middle. The Fever didn't need special whistles. They needed Boston, Mitchell, and Sims, and they showed up. If the Aces want to survive, they better stop blaming refs and start playing.